Recording, and let's go.
Okay.
Great.
Excellent.
So, good morning. This is one of my Bright Minds Blab chats, and we're focusing on entrepreneurs and mental health this morning. My name is Jamie Good, and I'm the digital fluency coach. I'm really excited to have my guest on today. She's an expert in the field and has lots of great things to say about the topic. So, how about you introduce yourself for us, please?
Thanks, Jamie. So my name's Robin Bender, and I'm the founder of Mega Health at Work, and I'm a Waterloo, Ontario-based training and consulting organization. And what we focus on is really being proactive when it comes to health and wellness and mental health. And our approach is really to focus on prevention over treatment. So we offer a series of workshops that address mental health and wellness within the workplace. My background is I was a disability manager for over 15 years. I held a number of different HR roles, and I became an expert in really facilitating return to work for people who were injured or had a mental illness. So often I would see, different kind of medical notes coming into the workplace that identified people needing to go off on stress leave. Mm-hmm. But often what was underlying that stress could be either depression or anxiety, probably the two most common mental illnesses that we see, particularly showing up in the workplace.
Yes.
And so with that, I came to the realization that really organizations do very little training or have very little understanding around mental health and wellness. And so I basically determined and decided that I'm going to go out there and really start to be proactive and train on prevention and provide the knowledge and tools to help people manage mental health and wellness.
Well, that's awesome. I love that you're saying proactive, because I think that's super important, and something, like you say, the focus is usually on the treatment rather than the before. So that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most of us are operating in reactive mode, right?
Yeah. That's true, right? Absolutely true.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering for you, because you're an entrepreneur as well. We're both entrepreneurs. When, as an entrepreneur yourself, have you struggled with keeping your mental health in check and balanced and healthy, I guess? Have you had struggles yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've been in business just over 2 years, going into my third year. And Jamie, honestly, I don't know how I made it through the first year. It was very challenging in shifting from being an employee for the last 15 years with different organizations, and really a change in lifestyle, to be quite frank, in how you're operating your day-to-day is completely like night and day.
Yep.
And nobody teaches you how to do that. And so you really have to navigate the world of changing from an employee into an entrepreneur. And how do you cope with that transition, essentially? That can cause a lot of anxiety. It can cause a lot of stress. Yep. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of things that happen. You have to be able to cope with rejection. And failures and projects that don't work out and goals that aren't met, which, really can be quite a stressful environment and lifestyle to be operating in when you don't have the tools or not necessarily have the skills to understand how to navigate that in a healthy way. So I myself had to learn. I have fallen down many times in terms of being anxious about or is what is going to happen really going to happen? Is my dream going to become a reality? Because I kind of equate it to lifting a huge weight, right? It's like picking up heavy weights, and you're trying to get it up as high as you possibly can get, and you're training for it, and you're working at it, and you're trying to really get your dream up and going. And so, I've struggled with times where you start to question whether or not, you can do it. You have those anxious moments where, you start questioning whether or not this is going to happen or not happen. You're hit with, again, rejection constantly. And so, you believe a lot of things are going to happen, and a lot of things don't happen the way that you might believe they're intended to happen. So yeah, mentally, how do you cope with those types of things? I've had to struggle and find my way through that, most certainly.
Which in a way, I guess, helps with what you're doing now, because you're speaking from experience when you help others, right?
Absolutely. And that's the best learning tool.
Yeah, totally.
Sharing that information and how you cope and how you deal with the stresses that come with entrepreneur for sure. Absolutely.
And I think one of the things you mentioned, I've written down here, cope with rejection, failure. I don't think many of us prepare for that in advance because it's our dream. So we think everybody's going to love it as much as we do. And so
absolutely.
We don't sit around and go, oh, no, people are not going to like this. We think everyone's going to love it like we do. And then we're not ready for that.
That's right. Absolutely. Right. And so in terms of how do you cope with that when the realization comes that not everyone is buying what you're selling necessarily, right?
Yeah, and it comes pretty quick after you start to.
It does.
Especially if you haven't thought out a lot of your processes, et cetera, in advance.
Right. And so in terms of being an entrepreneur and coping with rejection, you know, there's a couple different paths you can take. You need to either find a healthy path to deal with that. And what are the self-care strategies and how are you going to renew yourself and cope with stresses like that? Versus, you know, crawling up in a ball and, you know, hiding away and isolating and really getting down on yourself because things are not working the way that you hoped for.
So would you mind sharing maybe what you would say people could use as a coping strategy for when they feel that failure or rejection? What do you recommend?
Any kind of self-care activity.
Okay.
And I can't give people the answer. They need to know what it is for themselves. So it's how do you de-stress? So if you were to make a list of, say, 10 things that you love to do that help you to de-stress, that help you to renew yourself, body, mind, soul, spirit, whatever, make a list of what those things are and make that your go-to when something happens that puts you sort of feeling in a stressful situation, or you're starting to have stressful symptoms, worry or fear starts to come up, then that's your go-to list that you're going to enact or put into action right away.
And I guess maybe it's important, though, to also consider just in terms of your health that maybe one of the things on the list shouldn't be smoking or drinking, for example, if you had a problem with that in the past.
Right. Right. So you want to look at what healthy things can you do. So, you know, you could read, you could listen to music, watch a movie, take a bath, laugh. There's all kinds of things. But you're going to have to decide what that is for you. Yeah. I can't say that. For me, it's going out in nature. It's being outside. I know for you, it's breathing is a good tool that you use. So it's going to be different for every single person. But it's really being aware of what those things are and making sure that you put them into action. That's
the important part. So not just make the list, but do something at the time when it comes. Now, I think that means, though, there has to be a little bit of self-awareness there, too, because some people, I don't think, when they're in the middle of stress and anxiety, they realize that they're in there until maybe it's a little bit too late or they've been in it for a few hours. So in that sort of sense, so if you're at work or you're at home, like you go to your office or you're just working from home and you're feeling the kind of beginnings of stress, is there any sort of signals you would say to people like notice this or notice that?
Well, a lot of worry comes up for entrepreneurs, a lot of fear. Yep. Sometimes heart palpitations, you can have physical symptoms as well, right? The anxiety people typically feel either in their chest or in their stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes headaches can come on. It can show up in physical forms as well. So it's not just your thinking patterns, but also what are the physical symptoms. Some people will sweat. Some people will start to shake a little bit. So everyone experiences the symptoms differently, but it's recognizing when the onset starts what you can do.
Very true.
And breathing, which I love your tool, because breathing can make a huge difference in being able to calm down. If you are feeling stressed out, it's a quick, easy tool to really sort of bring yourself back to the present moment. True. So I really love that one. Absolutely. It works for a lot of people, but again, it's finding, recognizing when the onset is starting and finding that thing and putting it into practice right away.
Yeah, the thing I like about breathing too is that it's always with you, and you can be in your car, you can be in the shower, you can be at your desk. It doesn't matter, and you can just access that. And that's the thing that it became for me, was just this always there, a kind of mobile tool. Because, like you said, I like to go out in nature too, but sometimes you just can't. Maybe you don't have a car, for example, maybe it's pouring rain outside, but the breathing is always there.
Absolutely.
And free.
Yeah. 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 It's a great tool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that mental health became a priority for you because you were noticing things in another job that you had. And so it's in that job, it sounded like you were seeing the kind of results of the mental health issues after the fact. So then how did you come to the realization that it needed to be a proactive kind of switch? Because like we were saying, some people don't notice it before, maybe don't have the self-awareness. So what was the thing that made it kind of be the light bulb for you that go, oh, we need to be proactive about this, not reactive?
I think it was accumulation of all my experience in doing claims management and just having honest conversations with people.
No, that's a good point.
The more that I got to understand and learn, I mean, I was in a job where I wasn't given training on mental health and illness.
Oh, wow.
But I was expected to manage it.
Wow.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of claims management experience in terms of process and how you work through policy and whatnot. But a lot of the people cases that I was assigned to manage was people who were depressed. I saw that continuously. People who are struggling with anxiety. I also managed PTSD claims, and not understanding what these illnesses are makes it very challenging for anyone to know how to support, or if you're in a supervisory position, how to manage, what to say,
yes,
what not to say, right? And what I found really when I kind of took a step back and looked at all of my experiences in all the different organizations I was involved with, nobody was ever taught the skills. And I mean, we certainly don't learn about mental health or mental illness in high school, or I didn't learn about it in university. I didn't learn it in my post-grad program. So you don't really know anything about it. And your ideas are formed by media, right? By television and movies and newspaper headings. And you're trying to form your own sort of ideas and your own experiences with people, but no one really tells you, these are the symptoms. These are the risk factors. This is what you need to look out for. These are the behaviors, the attitudes, the moods, the changes that start to happen, and what you need to be aware of and to look for. But not only that, but how to support somebody who's going through these changes.
Yes.
And that's where there's essentially zero training and education and tools. So we're not given that, yet we're expected to be part of it.
Very true. Well, because I've been sort of in a similar path with you in terms of understanding self-care and mental health, etc., because I had to work through my struggles with PTSD. I hear you say that you didn't have training for this, and I go, what? Like, it's so crazy that that's part of the reality, and that's what I love, that you are now filling in that kind of void to help people understand. Because, like, I was just writing down here when you were talking, one of the important things is just to learn more. Because I think we see the word depression, we see the word anxiety, we hear the acronym PTSD, and some people kind of back away instead of going a bit forward and saying, I'm going to try to learn a bit more about this in case my colleague or someone needs some support, or I need to say something to them, want to make sure I say the right thing. I think a lot of people just back away and they don't talk at all.
Absolutely. And in a lot of organizations, I observed people, hoping that the problem solves itself or goes away.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So instead of taking sort of a proactive approach, they sit back and just sort of wait and watch to see what happens. And typically that doesn't help the situation whatsoever.
No.
Right?
And the interesting thing is, what surprises me is companies are always talking about the bottom line, and this affects the bottom line. It affects productivity, the efficiency of your organization, how well your team comes together. And so it surprises me that they don't see this as part of the big picture in terms of profits, for example.
Right. Yes.
And growth, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
I have another question here I'd like to ask is if there's a couple of habits that you would suggest to any entrepreneur to help them make sure that they have a good kind of healthy mental health, I guess I'd say it that way, on a daily basis, what would be a couple of habits you might recommend? And I only say a couple or two because I think when we dump on people, okay, here's 5 things you should do every day, it can sound overwhelming if you're already a super busy entrepreneur. So what are maybe 1 or 2 things that could be done every day that would help somebody?
Well, not just a habit, but something that needs to occur is having a self-care plan in place.
Oh, okay.
That would be really my recommendation. So again, I can't advise what that is for anybody. It's going to be different for every single person, but making self-care a priority is key.
Yep. Having
that balance. Entrepreneurs in particular are very well known for not establishing a good work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're known for working nonstop, right? 60, I hear people working 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
Yep.
Who are entrepreneurs, right? That at some point, that can lead to burnout. And burnout is something that happens gradually over time and is hugely an issue for entrepreneurs. So how are you going to maintain that balance? And you do that by having or incorporating the habit of doing or practicing self-care every single day.
Yeah, that's important. I think what you're saying, burnout is gradual over time. We don't see it right away. And no. I think that's a really important point.
Yes. Yeah. It's a high risk for entrepreneurs indeed.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you make sure that you don't go down that path, right?
Yeah.
Of taking too much on, essentially.
So that's one of the struggles, though, is I'm finding now that I've been under a year with my own business. I think you said the year 3, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it's like I was making a joke to my friend the other day because she's in her own sort of entrepreneurial kind of thing now too, and it's like I'm the administrator and the marketer and the content creator and the networker and the all these things all at once. So it's difficult sometimes for people to be able to jump in and see past all of that that needs to be done and say, what I have to say to myself sometimes is, okay, so I'm just not going to finish that one thing today. So what? The world is not going to end.
Yes.
And I'm just going to watch a movie on Netflix. Like, it's hard to do that. But because I managed to understand this self-care piece that you're talking about, because when I first heard about it, I guess that would be maybe 5 years ago. I remember my therapist saying self-care. And I'm like, well, what is that? Like, I had never even heard of that before. It was such a new concept for me.
Yes.
And I actually, in the beginning, I felt like a little guilty and uncomfortable. Like I felt selfish.
Right.
That I was taking care of myself. And then I got over that, thank God. And
right.
Yeah, but I know it's hard when you look at all the pieces of a small business that you have to attend to. So that's why one of the things I try to help people to do is see that you can automate a lot of things that free up some of your time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so is there, for you in like year 1 or year 2, when you had all of these things on your plate and you were also considering self-care, what were some of the steps that you made to kind of get some things off your plate, for example, but still get the work done?
I outsourced.
I love that word. Outsource is like the best word.
Yeah. So I came to the realization very early that you can't do it all.
Nope.
And some of these things that you're talking about, like marketing and administration and even IT, I'm the worst for IT stuff. You spend so much time and effort and energy plugging into skills that you don't have.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Right? And that's really not where your energy should be spent. If that's not your skill set, there's a lot of time saving and stress saving that you do by outsourcing and getting help from other people that have that skill set that can help you free up your time to be able to do what it is that you do best. So that's certainly a recommendation. Build that into your business plan.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Put it into your plan. Don't believe that you can do it all, because when you have that mindset, you certainly are on a very good path to burning out unless you practice what you're doing, which is a self-care piece and being able to say, that's got to wait. I'm not doing that today. And that's okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right?
And so it basically sounds like, were you feeling a decrease in stress and anxiety immediately after you would outsource a certain thing?
Immediately.
Awesome. That's
immediately.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I was spending a lot of time, and I absolutely, Jamie, I'm somebody that absolutely hates admin work.
Yeah, me too.
I hate admin work. It's just not who I am. So I'd be sitting here and I'd be opening up Word document and trying to, spending hours trying to find the right formatting. And I'm going, banging my head going, why am I doing this? I've spent a whole afternoon trying to figure out Word, right?
Yeah. It sounds like my life, because I never ever needed to use Excel in my whole professional life until about 2 years ago. And I'm like, what is this? I don't even know how this works. And so I have a VA now, a virtual assistant who loves Excel. And she goes, like, it's funny, we talk about something that I need to work on or a plan. She goes, oh, I'll create a spreadsheet. And I'm like, oh, go and do that, because it just takes it off my plate. And I know that the work is being done in a certain part of my business without me having to worry about it. Because in the end, and for any entrepreneur, we need to be doing the things that are going to bring in the money.
Yes.
And admin work is not that thing.
No.
Creating meetings is sometimes is not that thing. And so getting someone else to do that for you is like the perfect thing, or a tool. Like I just started using Calendly this week, where if you want to book a meeting with me, I just send you a link and you choose the time and it automatically goes into my calendar. I'm like, this is a godsend. I love this.
Right.
Because how you have that email back and forth, like, how about 5 p.m.? Oh, no, that doesn't work for me. How about 4 p.m.? And then 10 emails later,
yes,
you're not getting any work done. So I believe and agree with you that even though we don't think it right away, that just outsourcing and to people or tools is a form of self-care. It is a way of decreasing anxiety, possible depression, the slow, gradual build of burnout. So I think it's a very important point that you're making there. And
another point is asking for help.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yes.
Right? People, they hate asking for help. And I don't know how we ever got to be a society that dislikes asking for help, when you go and ask for help, there's so many people willing to be there to support you, right?
I know, it's crazy.
But we like to say that we can do it all ourselves, which doesn't help our mental health in any way, shape, or form, right? So
I also talked to a friend of mine out in Calgary a while back about ADHD, because that's another struggle I have, and so does he. And he said that the ADHD actually helped him become more effective and productive, because like what you were saying about admin, he was saying a similar thing about receipts, invoicing, and taxes. And I was having that struggle too, where I'd sit down and it's not my skill set. I don't enjoy it. It's not my passion is not in receipts and invoices.
Right.
And so my attention would always go. And then I get in this cycle of guilt because I feel bad that I'm not getting that done. And the next day I try again and my focus goes away. And he said he learned that he had to be doing things that he was passionate about and enjoyed, so that his focus could be on that thing and not have those ADHD symptoms where the focus is like always gone. There's a squirrel, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that was a really interesting it's kind of insight, I think, in that you focus on what you love, and those things should get done easily, and you'd be able to focus on them. So I don't know if that's your experience as well, but I find that when you're enjoying it, you can focus on it better too.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. The other thing I wanted to mention is a good habit for an entrepreneur is also to learn how to say no.
Oh my God, yes.
So not agreeing to every single thing that comes your way, because, people will approach you with all kinds of opportunities and different projects and partnerships and all kinds of things. And you need to decide to say no.
Yes.
And learn to say no. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, you really want to take on everything, and everything sounds great, and it's exciting, and the opportunities that present themselves, but you really need to stay focused. And what is it that you truly want to do? What is your work about? What are you passionate about? What are your end goals here, right? And that certainly has happened to me, where I've been approached by all kinds of different, and it sort of takes your business in a whole different direction.
Yeah.
And it's really getting back to, what are you here to do? What are you trying to achieve with your business, right?
Yeah.
So that's another habit I think that's really important, is you can't say yes to every single thing, and every single offer and every single meeting request, right?
Very true. We have my partner and I have a vision board that we created that we put up on the wall, and the very top first thing says the power of no.
Yes. Yeah. Very important.
I read a quote yesterday by Warren Buffett, who arguably is one of the most successful people in history. And he said that when people ask him what's the secret to success, he said that very successful people say no to almost everything.
Yes.
And it sounds so, like, to our Canadian brain in our culture, it sounds so wrong. Like, oh, that's not polite. But you're not.
That doesn't mean he's saying yes to the things he wants to do and no to the things
and the things that are going to bring in some sort of money, etc. Yeah. I don't want to go too far before we miss some of the things that are on the side here. Some people are interacting with us. So Anita has said outsource accounting and bookkeeping. I say preach it, sister. I totally agree with that.
Totally agree.
She's saying FreshBooks is a great way to automate some aspects of invoicing too. I've heard a lot about FreshBooks actually, and I've heard the same things, that it's great. And then Virtuel, who I believe is Leslie, barter services when you can. So that's a really good point, bartering services. So I'm in that state right now with somebody where we're trading. She is just starting a new business on making videos. She wants to do video for entrepreneurs and businesses. And she also wants to learn digital fluency about Twitter, the things that I do. So to help her and have a portfolio, she's going to make a video for me, which is great. I would love to have a nice like promo brand video on my site. And then I'm going to give her access to my workshops for free. So it's a great suggestion there, Leslie, that if you can find someone who can kind of trade with you and they have their skill set and you have yours, I think that's a brilliant way of doing it. And then you're not worried about, oh, can I afford this or etc. And you also, I think, increase your connection to another person and your network.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent point. Yeah, for sure.
One other thing I'd like to ask you is, this is a kind of a bigger question, I think, and it's changing, but it's still there. Why do you think that mental health for entrepreneurs, professionals, businesses, corporations, why is it so taboo?
Well, I think over a long period of time, we've been conditioned not to talk about it. So no matter where you are in the world, whether you're in the workplace, whether in your household, with your family, with your friends, it's just been something we've been conditioned not to go there and not get involved in. And there's, again, very little information that we're provided at even a young age around mental illness.
That's
right. We just are not, it's not part of our curriculum. It's not part of the conversation.
That's very true.
So, but having said that, we've come an extremely long way. And so there's the taboo around mental illness because it's still like, well, do we really want to admit that people struggle? Well, yeah, they do. And if you talk to people, 1 in 3 people will struggle with a mental illness. Right. And actually, the Canadian Mental Health Commission believes that number to be a lot higher. And they believe that number to be higher because of the stigma. So nobody wants to put up their hand and be the one that says, I'm having a hard time. I'm having symptoms of depression, or I'm having symptoms of anxiety or PTSD. Nobody wants to be that person. Right. But when you actually start to have honest conversations and real conversations, I call them, with people, you start to realize everyone has been in situations where their mental health has been somewhat compromised, or they're struggling, or they're filled with worry and fear, and they're having these symptoms. And it's more common than I think people realize or understand. And when I share the stats with people, and I even, when I run events, I'll ask people to stand up if they know someone who struggles with mental illness. And inevitably, everyone in the room stands up.
Wow.
Everybody. And there's never a person sitting down. So, I mean, if you're asking the real questions and you're having these real conversations with people, you really start to begin to say, this is not, this is everyone.
Yep.
This is not just particular professions, or, some people have ideas that it's a homeless issue, or people that are uneducated, or, I know tons of entrepreneurs that struggle significantly with depression and anxiety. In fact, I haven't met an entrepreneur that hasn't.
Yeah, so true.
Right? So it's like, well, are we going to come to a place of acknowledging and then start to do something about it? Well, I believe we've arrived there.
Good.
I really do. I think, things like a Bell Let's Talk campaign have pushed this to the forefront. But my only challenge with campaigns is that campaigns can't happen just one time.
True.
Right? This needs to be a daily conversation that becomes part of your being, not just, something that happens here and there once in a while.
And I think it's part of corporate culture too, where it needs to be built into you don't happen to be an entrepreneur and you're still in a company, that you recognize that it's not a risk for you to come out and say that you're struggling with something, that from the CEO down, they need to communicate that it's okay in our company to share that you're having a struggle, and we will help you, and we have support mechanisms in place. I had that experience in my last job where they did talk about it. They supported Clara Hughes in her ride across Canada and things, and they let people know that not only do we have a support system, but you don't have to feel ashamed to say that you're having a struggle with something. And I thought that was super important, because that's sometimes what you have in some companies is this, like, we must succeed, we must do this, we must get all our goals and meet all our targets, etc. And so there can be no sign of weakness.
Right.
And that's
perceived weakness. It's perceived as weakness, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because it's a mindset that it is a weakness, but it's stated, unfortunately, out loud in meetings sometimes, and I can't believe that. Like, so the culture of the company, I think, is an important piece there too. We've got a few more comments on the side I don't want to miss. And by the way, anyone who's on this Blab, if you want to grab the open seat, feel free. If you have a question you'd like to ask live in the flesh. So Leslie was saying, some people fear it affecting business opportunities, which I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people, is that if you were to say, like, kind of out loud and in public that you're having a struggle with PTSD, then there are some fear that some people would misunderstand and not want to maybe have a partnership with you. Knowing that we can create a network of support elevates all of us. Yeah, that's so true. Do you have tips or suggestions for people in terms of creating and building that network of support?
Absolutely. So what we're doing right now is, I think, an excellent example of two entrepreneurs having a conversation live with probably amongst a number of other entrepreneurs, I'm guessing. But collaborating and finding out who those people are and having, I would say, real discussion, right? So sitting down and starting the conversation, maybe identifying what the challenges are for you as an entrepreneur, and then how you overcome those barriers, right? Because until you start to have the dialogue, so things like outsourcing, people might not have even thought of that as a way to, minimize some of their own stress, focus on what they're passionate about, but taking it maybe one step further. So who are those people that you've recommended or who could help others, right? That you've reached out to or you've met, like an informal referral process or even a formal referral process that can put you in a better position yourself, right? Networking obviously is great, but only until the point that there's some sort of exchange, right? So you want to be able to provide, share what you know, what you've learned, and then get the same in return, right?
Very true. Hi, Anita.
Hi.
Hello.
Where are you calling in from?
Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Oh, Halifax! Yay! Yay, Canada! We love the East Coast.
There we go. I had a volume issue. Okay, I can hear now.
Fine. We can hear you totally fine. And so you were saying you maybe jump in and tell your story about how it's been received as an entrepreneur.
Well, you were saying, people don't tell their story because of fear of losing business. And I certainly fell into that. For the first couple of years I was in business. So I'm a social media consultant, and I was working from home. I have to back up a little further. I haven't told this story publicly very much by speaking about it, so I don't have a set story. Somebody's saying you can't hear me. I'm not sure if they're saying they can't hear me.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm hearing you guys fine,
Okay.
so I'm not.
I can hear you.
Okay. So about 8 years ago, I started feeling the effects of postpartum depression. I had 2 kids. My first daughter has special needs. So I was stuck at home, not working. I never envisioned myself being a stay-at-home mother, and I wasn't happy doing it. So I went back and I did some contract work, trying to get out of the house. I started working for one of the multi-level marketing companies, trying to get some adult engagement outside of the house. And I loved doing that, but I still wasn't happy. And so finally, I went to a course at my church, and I'm not even a religious person, but they were having a purpose-driven life course. And I thought, well, maybe if I go to that, I will figure something out. I'll figure out why I'm not happy. And the very first night, the minister looked at me after I was talking and crying in this session and said, "You're depressed. You need to go to the doctor." Mm. And that conversation changed my life, because I couldn't admit that that's what was going on. And I had worked in mental health for 4 years as a fundraiser. I knew the symptoms. I knew the stigma. I knew where to get help. I knew what the help was going to be, because I'd been working in a mental health environment for a long time. And I still couldn't admit it. My friends didn't see it, because they saw the happy-go-lucky person at work who, from their perspective, they saw the person who didn't want to leave her kids at night to go party, who didn't want to leave her husband to go out with the crowd because she was happy at home, which was definitely not the case. Mm-hmm. So fundraising, very stressful career choice. If anybody is thinking about it, I would discourage people from that. But eventually I was lured back into a fundraising position by somebody that knew me very well. And I took it for several reasons. One, I needed to get back into the workforce because I was not happy being home. And I knew that that was compounding my mental health issues. And 2, I needed money. So I went back into fundraising, even though that's not what I aspired to do. And through that job, managed to find out that, hey, people are being paid as consultants to do social media work. And that was the one part of my job that I really liked, was the social media promotion stuff. So I came up with this idea: if this job doesn't work out, I'm going to go out and start a business. The job didn't work out, clearly. So I jumped in with both feet and started a business, which is something I swore I would never, ever run a business. And how was I going to do that? And I put in place a few things to help. One was a regular networking group that I would go to every week so that I would get out of my house and have adult engagement again.
Yes.
So that was one of my coping mechanisms for what I thought was going to be a very solitary way of working. Little did I know that once you take on a job, you spend more time out of the house than in the house. But it was about a year later when I had the opportunity. I was starting to feel a lot better. I was on medication. I was feeling a whole lot better about my confidence, about the fact that I'd started a business, just feeling better in general. And I wanted to start talking about it because I knew that we need more people to talk about their experience in order to destigmatize mental illness as entrepreneurs and in the workforce. So I wanted to start talking about it. The first thing I did was I wrote my story out for an organization here that was looking for stories of women who had overcome things in their life to run businesses and make changes. So I wrote that story out, and I was scared to death to have that go public. I hadn't even, at this point, I mean, this is 6 years after diagnosis, I hadn't even admitted to my parents that I'd been diagnosed with depression.
Wow.
So I was about to go public and tell the world about my story, and I hadn't even told my family members.
Mm-hmm.
So we put the story out, and it was all positive. It was all positive. Everything that came back to me after that story came out was, you know, wow, you're so brave for telling your story, which I don't think I'm brave. I mean, I can barely talk about it as it is, but
you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
It's very hard to talk about this stuff. And I think it's not only that people feel the stigma, but it's just hard to express your feelings
Mm-hmm.
without totally breaking down, which is what happens to me. So I've learned to talk about it through the tears.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to breathe when I talk about it. And I actually I've shared that story every year on the Bell Let's Talk day. I post the link back to that story online so people can read it. Every year there's more people that didn't know who, you know, some people message me privately and say, thank you, I was scared to tell my story, or thank you for sharing that, I feel this too. Sometimes they turn around and share their own story publicly. Sometimes it's just a feeling of, well, thank you, at least I know I'm not alone. That's the biggest thing, is just to know you're not alone.
Yeah.
So the most recent thing I did was I told my story publicly as a speech for the first time at Mo Mondays.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, if you've been to Mo Mondays, it's interesting. But I got up there and I ugly cried through the whole thing. And they videotaped this. I've never seen the video. I don't think I want to. But it was very liberating to get up in front of a business community and tell the story of how I had depression and what I learned from it, because that's the whole idea of speaking at Mo Mondays, is to say what you've learned from this experience. And I guess in the end, the moral of my story was I've learned that I am the 1 in 5 or the 1 in 3, depending on which statistic you listen to. And we can't just keep looking at other people saying, oh, that's the kind of person that has a mental illness. They're everywhere around us, and we have to start talking about it. So I guess that's partly why I jumped in today too, is 1, to practice getting through talking about it, and 2, because we need more people to share the story.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for
so
sharing.
I've never felt anything negative from telling my story. I have never once had a troll comment and say, well, I would never do business with you because of that. Yeah. I'm sure there are people that, you know, have referred me because they know of the struggle. So I don't think it's been a negative factor in my business at all, although I did certainly have people who said, oh, I don't think you should talk about that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never listen to those people. I get that too.
I don't anymore. So now I try to talk about it as much as I can.
Well, and there's something really authentic about sharing what you've gone through that people completely relate to. And it's that authenticity, being able to say, this is how I feel or felt in these moments, and this is what occurred for me, but this is what I learned from it, where people go, wow, thank you for giving me that, because I couldn't talk about it, and you have, and your sharing has done so much for me, right? That you'll never know how many people you'll touch. You'll actually never know how many people you impact by sharing what you've shared, your story. You'll never know. But I can guarantee you it will be a lot of people.
Yeah. And every time I share the link or I talk about it, I think to myself, if there's one person out there that relates to my experience with postpartum depression and says, oh, maybe I can get help, then that's what matters.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. And one of the things, like I'm seeing on the side here with Paul and some people commenting, I really love this engagement today, is saying that some people might stop engaging with you when they hear the story. But my response to that is the same I have with people that I just don't think are good clients. There are other people to work with out there, right? Like there's so many business opportunities out there that, and part of saying no for me is also saying no to clients that I just can't work with. If you meet the person that's stubborn and just doesn't want to listen to you, but they hired you to help them, then I sometimes just have to have a conversation and say, sorry, this is not working. And I have no problem doing that because I know there's going to be someone who's going to come along that will be a good partnership and good collaboration for me. So I never have a problem when people say that they might stop working with me. And I agree with, I'm not sure what the first name is here, but someone said, thanks for your bravery. And I'd like to say the same too. Paul, you can jump in if you want. There's still an open seat. Go for it. Another social media professional.
Hello.
Hey, Paul.
Hi.
Hey, Anita.
Where are you calling from, Paul?
I was born in Manchester in the UK, but I now live in Surrey, which is just outside London.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to say I only happened to sort of jump in because I saw Anita. I've seen her on other blabs and got a lot of time for her. And I've got even more time for her now. I've just listened to that. And I just wanted to say that it would never stop me. Some mental health, unfortunately, there is a stigma to it. Of course there is. And I suppose the stigma might be, well, if this person is unstable mentally and I'm engaging them and paying them, is it going to cause me more problems than it's worth and this, that and the other? But I suppose that's a lack of understanding about what mental health is and how it affects people. It affects people in different ways. And as I said in the comments, it would never stop me from engaging Anita. And actually, one of the great things about this platform is that it shows us our warts and all our flaws, all our faults, and all the rest of it, which makes me want to engage with Anita even more. And if she, her honesty, what she just did then, that honesty would subliminally would be if she was in a business meeting with me trying to get me to give her my business, and I'd seen that. It would make me think anything she says is the truth, even if it's not.
Interesting.
Right. And that adds the most amazing credibility to her as a person. So you carry on doing what you're doing, Anita. You're going to do very well. I'm certain of that.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, that was an amazing story. And I'm really glad that you told it.
Yes. Thank you.
Me too. And
one of the things...
they value transparency in business, and I totally agree. And I think, like what you're saying, Paul, this platform and Twitter and other social media platforms have allowed more transparency with business, and I love it. It
does. Twitter, though, I think this though is more compelling than Twitter when it comes to transparency and openness, authenticity, all that sort of stuff. Because you can look at somebody in the eyes. I'm looking at Anita now, and I can hear her sniffing.
Sorry.
You know, because she's emotional. You don't see that on Twitter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You know, so
the authenticity, right? It's the authenticity. It's being real.
Yeah.
And that's what people relate to. That's what people appreciate. We all struggle. Yeah. And to be able to be courageous enough to share that we struggle is what makes a difference for people, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Could I just digress just ever so slightly? One of the things when I first came into this Blab, and I said about the Home Workers Network, and I shared a link to that to the Facebook page. That's a Blab show that I'm involved with once a week.
Okay, good.
And actually, when you work from home, whether you're an entrepreneur starting your own business, actually, particularly if you're starting your own business, it can be quite an isolating I suppose, experience. You know, if you've worked let's say for a large organization in an office environment with people around you to support you, and then go from that environment to working on your own, setting up your own business from home. That in itself is a scary thing, setting up a business. You put in some people may put their mortgage on it. There's so much pressure on you, and there's no one around you to share that with and offer you support and encouragement. And that's one element, not the whole element, but that's one element of the Home Workers Network that we set up. We did our first show actually yesterday. We did a pilot. We did a pilot show last week. The first show was yesterday. And maybe actually you've given me an idea that Anita, that maybe this isolation, this this scariness that people may experience when they start a business and work from home on their own. That might be something we might cover in a future show, and I'd love you to come in on that if you can hold back the tears a little bit.
I'll try. I try. Listen, I got married this weekend, and I managed to get married and say my vows and everything without bawling. So I'm getting better.
Well, you're stronger than I am, because I didn't when I did mine.
Wow. Well, Paul, I think that's actually really good. When I saw the Home Workers Network there, I thank you for sharing the link, because what I'm starting to do now with my Blabs is I'm creating another kind of it's called a Padlet, but basically it's just links and notes that I have from the conversation, so that people who see the recording after can get all of the stuff that's being shared. So I'm going to take that link and include it in that, and also to I'm not seeing the name here. Someone says they created a daily illustrated series to pull them out of depression. So I'm going to share that link too. So
absolutely.
For anyone watching this as a recording as opposed to live, I'm going to include all of this stuff in a sort of extra, I guess. So you
don't have a podcast channel.
Oh, so share that too, because I'll include that in the notes. Please. That are going to go along with this.
Actually, if you can share it now, and I'll follow you on iTunes now if you've got a podcast channel.
So if anyone has something they'd like to share there, put it up on the side there, and I'm going to include that into the extras in the notes. I think it's important what you said about isolation. One of the reasons I started my Bright Minds Blab chat is because, and this is what I mentioned to Robin when we first talked about this, is I'm at home almost every day working by myself. And like Anita was saying, I miss that conversation with adults and other entrepreneurs. That's stimulating, helps me learn, helps me grow. So I thought, well, why don't I just do these interviews, and then I'll also just do it in the public so that other people can learn along with me. And that's basically the reason I started this, is because I'm learning, I'm connecting, and then I'm hopefully allowing other people to do the same, which actually just happened right now. So
yeah, that was partly the inspiration behind the Home Workers Network too. And it's just a space for 1 hour every week where like-minded people can get together using this incredible platform.
Good idea.
And it has a truly worldwide audience. I mean, we had people from America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Madagascar, all over Europe watching it. We had over 100 people watching it. It was great. And we encourage. We're going to change the time because the three sort of people involved with it, myself and two other guys, are in the UK. And we decided that next week we're going to make this show a little bit later to allow some of our American friends to join us. So, yeah, keep your eye on that Facebook page, and we'd love you to join us.
Yeah, that's great, because as Robin was saying earlier, one of the things we need to do is self-care, and that could be one of the ways that people do self-care once a week with the group. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great idea.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, I'll free my seat up in case somebody else wants to hop on. But lovely to talk to you. Thank you for that experience, Anita. You've put a smile on my face. Your sad experience actually is there's a silver lining on that cloud, let's say.
Well, that's why I wanted to do it.
And I'm sure there's lots of people who will take a lot of comfort from what you shared there. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Good to see you.
Well, that was great. Thanks again, Anita. I think that's so excellent how, he said, this platform allows connections, networking, and support. I think it's great. It's great.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I really like the idea of his Home Workers Network. I'm going to go look that up, because that, like I said, the first thing I did was I joined a weekly networking group that I would go to in person so that I would have that adult connection. And this sounds like a good option for people like us that don't want to leave the house.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because it can be done online. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're reaching the hour point. I don't want people to have to, sit too long for this. So, Robin, is there anything else you'd like to add about mental health for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think the self-awareness piece is so critically important. And Anita, thank you for sharing, because your story will impact so many people. And it's the awareness around, having that insight of, and being able to go and ask for help and seek out that help. That's one thing that we all don't like to do. We don't like to ask for help, right? And we want to believe that we can all do everything ourselves. And the reality is that we can't. And that help is available, and, reach out and connect with people who are authentic and real like yourself, that are willing to share your story, because again, so many people will benefit, right, from hearing what your experience is and learn from you, right? And that's what it's really about. Connect with as many entrepreneurs as you can. Like I said earlier, as we were talking, I have not met one entrepreneur who has not struggled with depression or anxiety. Mm-hmm. And my network is filled with entrepreneurs. Yeah. And I literally don't know one person who has gone through this journey and not experienced struggles.
Yeah, very true.
Right?
And so, Anita, if you don't mind, if you can do it now or tweet me later, the video you're talking about for Bell Let's Talk, if you wouldn't mind passing that link on, I'll put it in the show notes for people too. It
wasn't a video. It was just a story. They did a video of Mo Mondays, but I don't think they ever published mine.
If there's a way other people can access that story and you'd like to share that with me, I'll include it in the notes, or I can just give you access and you can put in there. Either way.
I'll look. I think the website that published it is actually down now, so I'll have to go look and see if I can still find it.
Okay.
But I'll check.
Okay, thanks.
I'll do that while you're talking.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Robin, and thank you, Anita, and Paul, who came on, and everybody else who's having this awesome engagement on the side. I just love it. This has been a great Blab chat, and I'm doing, another Bright Minds this morning with another person, so I'm really enjoying this platform. Stay tuned for more, and I'll just, as Robin's already seen, I have this tattoo here that says, "Remember to breathe." This is very important, I think, for all of us to be able to survive what we do on a daily basis, so... Thanks so much. Connect with us on Twitter. You see our Twitter handles there. Robin can be reached at megahealth_, JGoodDFC for me, and Anita Javi there on Twitter.
That one's actually wrong. Because I got married and I changed my name. It's actually Anita Kirkbride, but I can't change that on Blab, which is really frustrating.
Okay. Well, again, if you just put the link there, when I create the notes, I'll put everything in there so people can connect with you.
Okay.
And Robin, do you have a website for people to go to?
Yeah, I'll put the link up.
Okay, awesome. And I'll share that in the notes as well.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Well, thanks, everybody. I love this. I think this is really great and important. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie.
Have a good day and a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye, everybody.